So, very good evening, friends. Today we'll start with chapter 7, and chapter 7 talks of social impact assessment. So, after studying this chapter, you should know about social impact assessment approaches, steps, guidelines, tools, and importance, different organizational models of social impact assessment, and aspects related to social impact reporting. So, the social impact assessment is a process of, so you can remember this like RPM. RPM means research, planning, and management of social change and consequences, positive or negative. So this is a process of research, but actually now you have uh, floated a scheme, social welfare scheme, through an NGO or a for-profit organization. Now you want to assess the impact it has created. So how you will assess that impact? This is what is given in this chapter. So social impact assessment, it is a process of research, planning, and management of social change or consequences, positive or negative, intended and unintended, arising from policies, plans, developments, and projects. So what is the impact? And this assessment, social impact assessment, is a process of gauging that change, of witnessing that change. So it is a process of assessing direct, indirect, intended, unintended, positive, negative consequences of social interventions. So it is a powerful tool for implementing organizations to take necessary steps to enhance potential positive impacts and contain potential adverse impacts. So the idea is to enhance the positive impacts and contain the potential adverse impacts. So this can also be a question. So it helps decision makers to understand the benefits gained against the investment made in the project and also helps in reducing the costs. So concept of the social impact assessment, it gained formal recognition with the US National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, 1969, which included social elements in the environmental impact studies. So SIA concept evolved over a period of time and gained global importance with a lot of international standards incorporating it as a crucial component. Now, steps in conducting social impact assessment. So what are the steps involved? So social impact assessment is a process of an पहले मतलब समझ गए ना आप सोशल इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट का मतलब क्या है? मतलब ये है कि देयर इज एन एनजीओ और ए फॉर प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. It is working towards achievement of a particular say sustainable development goal. Now whether that goal was achieved and what is the impact of that particular scheme, whether it had a positive impact, whether it had a negative impact, where any direct or indirect or intended or unintended or positive or negative consequences of social interventions. Interventions, are programs designed to achievement of social development goals. So steps in conducting social impact assessment. So social impact assessment is a process of analyzing, monitoring, and managing social change in a society as a result of organizations' social interventions. Following are the steps for conducting social impact assessment. First is you have to set the objectives. You have to define the scope of impact analysis, the level and the desired social change to be achieved. Second is you have to analyze the stakeholders, identifying potential stakeholders which need to be involved to these processes. Then you have to setting relevant parameters by which this social enterprise will plan its interventions and how the activity achieves the outcomes and impacts. Identifying measurement tools, measuring the targeted outcomes and impacts. So these are some of the steps in conducting the social impact assessment. So if you want to assess the social impact, if you want to conduct a social impact assessment exercise, it is some sort of evaluation. So you are evaluating the benefits you have derived from that social intervention. So first of all, you have to set the objectives. What is the objective you want to achieve by conducting this social impact assessment? Then you have to analyze the stakeholders, because only by analyzing the stakeholders, you will be able to identify the positive or negative impact or direct or indirect impact on such stakeholders. Then you have to measure the relevant parameters by which the social enterprise will plan its interventions and how the activity achieves the outcomes and impacts, identifying measurement tools, measuring the targeted outcomes and impacts. And next is verifying and valuing the impact. So verifying that the logical implications are strong enough and that the impact is valued by the key stakeholders. So monitoring and reporting, integrating this information into the management system and reporting data to relevant stakeholders. So these are some of the objectives of social impact assessment and the steps in conducting social impact assessment. Now, what are the approaches? So it is a crucial aspect to verify whether an organization's social mission has been achieved. The steps mentioned above are based on a common framework that can be used for social impact assessment, but there are different social impact assessment methodologies and tools that have been designed by academics, impact investors, and practitioners. These methodologies and tools are based on three approaches of social impact assessment: qualitative research, quantitative research, and monetization of social impact. So first is the qualitative research. So qualitative approach. Social impact nature is qualitative. Thus, qualitative research helps to reveal the broader and in-depth effect of social mission. What is the weakness? High quality qualitative research also requires a great deal of effort. The systematic formulation of research design and the testing hypothesis that is directly related to the logical model. And what are the method? Theory of change, structured interviews, focus groups, case studies. So these are the methods for having this qualitative research. And quantitative research. Quantitative research basically they include surveys, statistical data analysis, whatever is able to, we are able to quantify. So in this, what is the strength of this quantitative research? It is possible to analyze the large amounts of data and report those data in numerical form. So stakeholders usually are requesting qualification of results. And weaknesses, it requires knowledge of statistical and mathematical methods. So in this, we use statistical and mathematical methods. I think this should be quantification, requesting quantification instead of qualification. Anyway, monetization. Third is the monetization approach. So what is this? In this, you try to monetize. You see the social return on investment. As in case of business, we see the return on investment in cost benefit analysis. So here, this approach is monetization approach, and it helps to express social benefits in monetary terms and make them understandable to other stakeholders. As investors, funders, monetary value allows to compare various diverse social enterprises. Okay, what is the monetary value of this social impact? So the focus is on organizations' economic aspects that can lead to a situation where there is a lack of information on other stakeholders. As investors, funders, monetary value allows to compare a broader realization of the social mission. It is difficult to monetize such human and social capital effects of the individual and community level. So these are the three approaches: qualitative, quantitative, and monetary. Now, all these approaches, they've got their inherent limitations. Quantitative approach basically includes surveys, whatever can be quantified. Monetary approach basically involves monetization or the social return on investment or cost benefit analysis. And this qualitative research, basically the methods are theory of change, structured interviews, focus group, case studies. Now, all these three approaches, they have their own strengths and drawbacks, where qualitative research does in-depth study of social impact. Quantitative approach helps in analyzing large number of data, and monetization approach helps investors in understanding social impact in terms of monetary returns against the investment made. Though the qualitative approach requires detailed analysis of qualitative indicators, which is a time-consuming method, quantitative and monetization approaches are also criticized widely. So all these approaches, they've got their own advantages, they've got their own drawbacks. Many social change indicators, like indicators of behavioral change or psychological change, they are difficult to quantify or monetize. So only you can qualitatively assess them. Secondly, the quantification approach only captures the number of beneficiaries impacted, which is a very narrow approach to social impact. Hence, quantification of social impact and assigning monetary value to social impact lacks information on achievement of social mission, because everything we may not be able to quantify or we may not be able to monetize. So it captures only a very minuscule of the impacted population. Secondly, the quantification approach only captures the number of beneficiaries impacted, which is a very narrow approach to social impact. Hence, quantification of social impact and assigning monetary value to social impact lacks information on achievement of social mission. Hence, it is crucial to understand the objective of the organization to conduct social impact assessment and accordingly select appropriate approach and tools. So there is no standard format or single tool that captures all the aspects of social impact. It clearly depends on objectives and interventions of the organization. So that qualitative approach, basically, this requires great deal of effort. Quantitative and monetization is relatively easier, but it captures a minuscule of population or a minuscule of the entire impact, because the qualitative impact is more of qualitative nature than of quantitative nature. Quantitative approach will capture only the direct beneficiaries or the stakeholders. Now, importance of conducting social impact assessment for different stakeholders. So what is the importance? So social interventions result in change for various stakeholders. So it is vital for the organization to understand intended or unintended as well as positive or negative impacts on these stakeholders. Because in social audit, what we are doing, we are just trying to understand the change that has happened in their lives, either positive or negative, direct or indirect. It is nothing financial. It is just the social impact. So social interventions, they result in change of various stakeholders. So it is vital for the organization to understand intended or unintended, as well as positive or negative impact on these stakeholders. So this would help the organizations to revise their interventions and implementing strategy and to make efficient use of resources. So important and benefits of social impact assessment to its stakeholders are as under. First of all, it helps the management of the organization to understand whether projects are being conducted effectively and requires any modifications in project activities. So first of all, the management or the efforts can be modulated accordingly. So those who are charged with the management of the organization, they can understand through these quantitative, qualitative or monetization approaches whether the projects are being conducted effectively and whether they require any modification. First is this. Then it helps the management to understand whether the social intervention is resulting in any change amongst the target group and communities at large. So whether there is, first of all, whether you require a change within. The first advantage of conducting the social impact assessment is for the management itself. That management itself can have an insight whether any change is required or they are going on the right path. This is the first thing. Second is whether that social intervention is resulting in any change among the target groups. So those whom they are trying to help, whether they are really getting the help, whether the resultant change is there or not. So that is the second thing. Third is it helps the organization use the social impact assessment report as evidence to advocate their interventions and secure future funding. So now this is an objective report, social impact assessment report. So if they show the social impact assessment report that, okay, they were able to influence the targeted beneficiaries, the targeted stakeholders, so it can help them in future funding also. And it helps donors or investors to ensure timely and effective achievement of predetermined targets. It helps the management as well as other stakeholders to regularly monitor and ensure that the implementing team is adhering to stipulated timelines and budgets. It enables organizations to collect data that track successes and failures and helps to build strong data management systems to understand trends and track long-term impact. Then concrete evidence of impact can motivate internal as well as external stakeholders to contribute in future as well. Now, what is the purpose of the social impact assessment? First is that ultimately a report will be generated. Now, based on that report, funding can be secured. It is a mirror to the management that whether the interventions they are doing are going in the right direction or whether it requires any change. So they can accordingly modulate their strategy regarding any change in the target group. So whether there was any change, because the idea is to bring a change in the lives of people. This is the uh, purpose of any social enterprise. So they want to bring change in lives. So whether that change is happening or not, so that is also the advantage of getting this social impact assessment done. Now, what are the different organizational models for structuring evaluation? So first is the outsourcing model. Now you want to get this assessment done. So assessment is some sort of valuation because you are doing some good work and you want to get its impact assessed. भाई उसका फायदा हुआ कि नहीं हुआ, ठीक है? आप डॉक्टर से दवाई लेके आते हो तो देखते हैं ना भाई फायदा हुआ कि दवाई से कि नहीं हुआ. और डॉक्टर की अगर दवाई का फायदा की अगर कोई रिपोर्ट बनाई जाए उसका फायदा किसको होगा? सबसे पहले तो डॉक्टर को होगा. डॉक्टर ये देखेगा कि भाई मैं जो दवाई दे रहा हूँ इससे लोगों को फायदा हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा, या मुझे अपनी दवाई में कुछ चेंज करना है. पेशेंट्स क्या बताएंगे? पेशेंट ये बताएंगे भाई ये जो दवाई देता है इससे हमें फायदा भी होता है या नहीं होता, या इसको खुद ही कुछ नहीं आता. तीसरा क्या होगा कि जो दूसरे कस्टमर्स होंगे वो भी अट्रैक्ट होंगे कि भैया देखो ये डॉक्टर अच्छी दवाई देता है, इससे फायदा होता है, इसके पास जाओ. तो जितने भी स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं उन सबको फायदा होगा ये सोशल इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट से, इसकी रिपोर्ट से. अब ये करना कैसे है? हाउ टू डू इट? डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल मॉडल्स आर देयर फॉर स्ट्रक्चरिंग इवेल्यूएशन. फर्स्ट इज द आउटसोर्सिंग मॉडल. इसमें क्या है? सोशल इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट इज a process of identifying and reporting wider effects of organizations' activities on different stakeholders and environment. Now, this process is time consuming as well as it requires expertise in understanding the various terms in social impact, output, outcome, impact, methodology of social impact assessment. So many times organizations do not have that expertise. Okay. Suppose there is an NGO that is working towards alleviation of poverty. So that NGO may be perfect in their work, but they may not be able to assess the impact, whether the desired impact is being achieved or not, or whether they want to, whether there is any change is required in their strategy. So they may not be themselves capable of handling this particular thing. So what they will do, they will outsource this work to some other agency. So this is the outsourcing model basically. So if you want to identify and you want to report the wider effects of organizations' activities on different stakeholders and environment, you may not be equipped. It is time consuming as well as it requires expert knowledge in understanding the various terms. So many times organizations, they do not have that expertise and enough financial and human resources to develop internal SIA systems or carry out social impact assessment with internal staff. So social impact assessment methodologies include perception of different stakeholders and internal stakeholders. of the organization, that is employees. Board members are also required to contribute. So social impact assessment, which can result in conflict of interest. In order to get unbiased and effective report, organizations prefer to outsource this social impact assessment process to external agencies. So this process of social impact assessment is normally outsourced to external agencies. Why? Because first of all, they are not equipped. It is a specialized job. Various terms they have to understand, like outcome, output, impact, and methodologies are there. So they are not, and it may be financially unviable also. So for instance, the Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office, Niti Aayog, is responsible to monitor and evaluate the schemes implemented by Government of India. So there is Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office, DMEO, Niti Aayog. So this is responsible because Government of India is also floating various schemes. Now, who is monitoring these schemes? So this is the agency, Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office of Niti Aayog. This is responsible to monitor and evaluate the schemes implemented by Government of India. So most of the times, DMEO carries out monitoring and impact evaluation internally. But on some occasions, it is outsourced to reputed external agencies. So DMEO has set up a panel with expert agencies in 6 sectors. So these are the 6 sectors. They may ask question on this: agriculture and allied sectors, economic sector, energy sector, infrastructure sector, social sector, and social welfare sector, and their subsectors. External agencies for impact evaluation are selected from these subsectors through a competitive bidding process. So sometimes the DMEO office is doing it internally, but sometimes they are also hiring external agencies. And they have set up a panel with expert agencies in 6 sectors: agriculture and allied sectors, economic sector, energy sector, infrastructure sector, social sector, and social welfare sector, and the subsector. So external agencies for impact evaluation are selected from these subsectors through a competitive bidding process. Now, however, outsourcing of SIA has a few drawbacks. Of course, we can outsource the social impact assessment work to some external agency, but naturally it has got some drawbacks also, such as smaller organizations which are dependent on donations and grants. They lack resources to hire external agencies, because if you hire an external agency, they will charge definitely. So it is uneconomical for them. It is not viable for them to hire external agencies for conducting social impact assessment. Social impact depends on social change, covering a lot of qualitative aspects. Organization implementing social intervention has more clarity and connection with the community, because they are working day in and day out with that particular community, and naturally they have got more clarity and connection. If some outsider comes, he may not be able to gauge the impact. And pre and post social intervention situation, because suppose they started a scheme for say 3 years, so they are aware what was the situation at the beginning, what is situation in the middle, and what is the situation at the end. So it is possible that an external agency is not able to capture all the impact indicators which are a crucial part of social impact assessment. Now, second is the partners. Yes.
Sir, in the case of that 6 sectors, what will be the NGOs in the energy sector? Actually, that big corporates are playing in the energy sector. Then what NGOs role in the energy sector? That is 6 sectors.
No, energy and energy could be of various types. Energy could be solar energy. It could be electric energy. Suppose some windmill project is there, so it will be in energy sector only.
Oh, okay.
Suppose in Gujarat, what they have done, they have covered all the rivers with solar panels. So solar panel, it keeps the water also cool, and solar energy is also generated. And water also is not contaminated. It is not polluted, because it is covered. So that way, it could be done. So many other things.
Yeah.
Now this partnership model. So first was the outsourcing model. Second is the partnership model. So apart from contractual relationships, research and policy teams can build mutually beneficial partnerships. So these partnerships can ensure that interests of both parties are combined, like researchers who are interested in conducting research on a policy question and policymakers and program implementers who are seeking to ensure that a good quality impact evaluation is set up in their project. So sometimes we get requests from interns, NGOs also get requests from interns, from some research scholars that, okay, your NGO is doing some good work in a particular area, say skill development, and there is a certain scholar who is also researching in that field, so he may get in touch with you and both of you can partner. So these partnerships, they can ensure that interests of both the parties are combined, like researchers who are interested in conducting research on a policy question and policymakers and program implementers who are seeking to ensure that a good quality impact evaluation is set up in this project. So researchers have incentive to address new questions that will add to the global evidence base and to push the envelope of the impact evaluation and contribute to its broader visibility. So naturally, because they are coming with a lot of energy and vigor, so researchers, they can also, they can address some new questions on this aspect. The research team may be able to leverage some co-financing for the impact evaluation if the objectives of funders are closely aligned with the research focus of the evaluation. Suppose yours is a herbal garment manufacturing unit. So there could be a researcher who is researching into these herbal garments, and there are factories in Himachal which are growing vegetable dyes and colors, so which are helping in production of these herbal garments. So if two such persons, they combine, so it could be some sort of partnership model could be developed. So the partnership approach presents certain risks. At times, innovative research elements covered by the researcher are not fully aligned to the immediate policy objectives at the local level. Suppose you are doing something and the researcher is doing something else. So now he may introduce new concepts, but they may not be fully aligned to the immediate policy objectives at the local level, although they can add value more globally. So he may be talking, say, of say PhD standard and you are at primary standard. So because you are concerned with the immediate people, with the immediate beneficiaries, and he is talking of some theoretical concepts. So full alignment may not be there with the researchers. So the researcher, they are not fully aligned to the immediate policy objectives at the local level, although they can add value more globally. So from the perspective of policymakers and program implementers, scientific rigor may not be required to undertake rigorous impact evaluations, and they may have a higher tolerance than the research team with respect to potential risks to the impact evaluation. So it is crucial that the objectives of the research team and policy teams are closely aligned. So there is a need for alignment. If you do some sort of partnership model with these research agencies, so he may not be an individual researcher, that may be a research agency also working in similar field. So, but their objectives have to be aligned. So it is crucial that the objectives of the research team and policy teams are closely aligned. For instance, the research and policy teams need to design evaluation strategies together along with the respective teams' roles and responsibilities. So laid down impact evaluation plan can describe operational rules along with potential risks. A mutual commitment to an impact evaluation as embodied in a clear evaluation plan is essential for the partnership to work smoothly, even if a contractual relationship is not put in place. However, written agreement is always preferred to have clarity on roles and responsibilities of both the parties. The basic idea of this technique of partnership model is that you are an NGO and there is a research agency working on a similar project. They are researching. They are into research. Maybe suppose you are an NGO who is working for skill development, and there is a research agency who is doing some research on what could be the fields in which skill development can take place. So what are the various areas, what are the various activities, what are the various professions or vocations in which this skill development can take place. So if your objectives match to some extent, then you can have a partnership model, and so that that research agency can do the social impact assessment for your organization, but the objectives may not be closely aligned and it needs to be worked, because they may be talking something higher and you may not be of that that stage actually. So there has to be alignment, and if there is a written agreement, so it is preferable, so that there is a clarity of roles. So this model is being used by the World Bank in their projects for groups like DIME, Development Impact Evaluation, then SIEF, Strategic Impact Evaluation Fund, and Gender Innovation Lab. So these are the, so they may ask questions on this. Provide funding and technical support to impact evaluations. For instance, in quoted delivery, a joint initiative between the World Bank, the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, JPAL, and the government evaluated a youth employment and skill development project. So this research team presented partnership between stakeholders like a World Bank team leader, international academics, and local experts, and a policy team including specialists from the project implementing units, the affiliated ministry, and the World Bank staff. Okay. Now, so this was the second model. First, outsourcing. Second, partnership. Third is fully integrated. Integrated means, so it is an internally built in. Integrated social impact assessment is an integral part of a program where impact assessment is carried out on a regular basis. Okay? So regularly feedback forms are there. Suppose you are doing some skill development program. So the participants who are undergoing this training on a periodical basis, they are required to share their feedback. So it is some sort of inbuilt process. So it is an integral. So integrated social impact assessment is an integral part of a program where impact assessment is carried out on a regular basis and not at the end. Under integrated social impact assessment, procedural and organizational arrangements covering environmental, economic, and social indicators are incorporated to capture data at similar points in time. This can help the organization to reduce inconsistencies in data and ensure that interdependencies among the various varied impact indicators are captured. So this model is usually used by social venture capital firms and or impact investors to track regular progress on their investments in social enterprises and ensure sustainability of those social enterprises, because they've invested their capital in the firm. Okay, they want to do charity, but they want to see the impact also. So if you are a social venture capital firm or you are an impact investor and you want to track regular progress on your investments in social enterprise, so then this fully integrated model could be of use. For instance, Acumen Fund has designed BACO ratio, best available charitable option, for decision making on social enterprise investment. So this ratio is used to identify viability of the investment based on financial leverage, technological leverage, and social impact. Another example is Robin Hood Foundation, a non-profit from New York City, which provides ongoing grants to non-profit organizations working in areas, jobs and economic security, education, early childhood and youth, and survival. Robin Hood developed its benefit cost ratio methodology to capture the best estimate of the collective benefit to poor individuals that Robin Hood grants create per dollar cost to Robin Hood Foundation. So this helps the foundation in translating the outcomes of diverse programs into a single monetized value. So this example, let us again understand this. Another example is Robin Hood Foundation, a non-profit from New York City, which provides ongoing grants to non-profit organizations working in areas, jobs and economic security, education, early childhood and youth. So they are giving grants, ongoing grants. This is Robin Hood Foundation. Robin Hood developed its benefit cost ratio methodology to capture the best estimate of the collective benefit to poor individuals that Robin Hood grants create per dollar cost to Robin Hood Foundation. So there is a methodology by which they capture the best estimate of the collective benefit to poor individuals that Robin Hood grants create per dollar. So per dollar of investment, what is the collective benefit it is generating? This is the idea. This is the model. So this helps the foundation. Suppose they gave $1,000. Now, $1,000 resulted in some change. So per dollar, how much change was there? So this is the concept. So this helps the foundation in translating the outcomes of diverse. There is a Robin Hood Army in Delhi also. I was also associated with that organization for some time, but now I am not finding time. I went there 3-4 times. So they are doing very good work. They are working in slum areas basically. So this helps the foundation in translating the outcomes of diverse programs into a single monetized value. So when an organization integrates impact assessment as an internal tool, it has its own advantages and disadvantages as described in table 7.2. So these are the advantages and disadvantages. What are the advantages? Social impact indicators are developed based on objectives and interventions of the organization. It provides benchmarks to track progress of interventions. Comparable data is available from time periods, different projects. Impact assessment can be done at any time as per the requirement of stakeholders. And what are the disadvantages? The disadvantages are it requires financial and technical resources to develop an integrated system. So we are understanding the integrated impact assessment. What are the advantages of integrated impact assessment? Integrated means built in the system. So disadvantages are it requires financial and technical resources to develop an integrated system. It requires expert human resource to develop, operate, and generate impact reports. Because within the organization, you will be generating reports. So definitely you need people for that. So you need expert human resource to develop, operate, and generate impact reports. But if you outsource this thing, then you need not have these people. It is difficult to incorporate new tools or indicators in future if the existing tool is not flexible. And this advantage, another advantage is that it provides standard format for generating impact reports for all the projects. So these are the 3 models: outsourcing, partnership, integrated model. Then do it yourself. What is the DIY? Social enterprises can develop their own social impact assessment tools, which can be customized to the expectations of stakeholders of the organization. A few examples on how companies have incorporated impact measurement tools for their CSR expenditure are, so these are some of the examples where these impact measurement tools have been inbuilt or incorporated by the companies for their CSR spending. So these are the examples. HDFC has also implemented innovative monitoring and evaluation tools for their CSR spend, creating a score-based system for M&E. Projects for evaluation are identified on the basis of their criticality, which is defined as a combined scores of implementing partner sensitivity and project sensitivity for the bank. So while low and moderate critically projects are evaluated internally by the impacting, medium and high criticality projects are evaluated through a reputed third-party research agency. Now, organizations like Willgrow, Aspire Impact, they are providing technical support to corporations and social sector organizations to conduct social impact assessment. They are also providing training and capacity building support to develop their own customized tool for impact assessment. So these are some of the organizations, they have incorporated impact measurement tools in-house. So what HDFC is doing? HDFC is dividing the projects into 2 categories: critical projects and other projects. For critical projects, they are the projects with low and moderate criticality, they are evaluated internally. But those with high criticality, they are evaluated through a reputed third-party research agency. This is the basic intention. Then these organizations like Willgrow, Aspire Impact, they are providing technical support to corporations and social sector organizations to conduct social impact assessment. So they are also providing training and capacity building support to develop their own customized tools for impact assessment. So these are the organizations will grow, aspire, impact. They are providing technical support to organizations or corporations to conduct social impact assessment. Social enterprises can develop comprehensive social impact assessment after considering various assessment tools developed by other organizations at national and international level. This model is similar to integrated social impact assessment in terms of its benefits and drawbacks. So you are doing it internally, but you are taking advantage of some of the tools. And these organizations, they are providing the technical support. So this is something, suppose you want to file your own income tax return. So now your income tax return, you can do it on your own without any help. You can hire an expert for that. If you hire an expert for that, so that will be the outside expert, outsourcing. That will be some sort of outsourcing. If you offload this job, okay, so there is some intern, there is an article, and who is learning the tricks of the trade, he is learning this filing of income tax return. So he partners with you that, okay, sir, I will work for you and I will not charge you anything, but I will suggest you ways how to increase your business also, because I am also in this field. So this is some sort of partnership model. And the third model could be that, okay, you take help of some software expert. So you install some sort of software. So that is a type of tool and you do it yourself. So this is the concept. Theory of change. Theory of change is a structured and systematic approach to link activities to their impact. Social change is a composite array of cultural, demographic, economic, environment, political, religious, scientific, and technological forces, which is not a simple process. So theory of change is an outcome-based method with participatory approach, which applies critical thinking to design, implementation, and evaluation of intervention. So this figure, it depicts the chain of results in theory of change. So what are they? First is the impact. So there are certain impact indicators, then outcome, then outcome indicators, outputs, output indicators, and implementation strategies. And there are certain assumptions and risks also. So this process describes how interventions are understood to contribute to a series of results that lead to final intended impacts. This process initiates with situation analysis and identifying the problem that intervention seeks to address. Next step is to gather the relevant information on input, output, outcome, and impact from primary feedback from different stakeholders and secondary sources, research and document published by the organization and other published outcomes. The process is described with an example in figure 7.2. Now this figure 7.2, it says that the problem is malnutrition and health problems amongst children. Now the intervention, what will be the intervention? You organize health camps for children in schools. So this is the social intervention. Now what will be the output? The number of children attended health camps. So this is a measurable output. And input is the time and efforts taken by the doctors and medical staff. So there is a problem, malnutrition and health problems amongst children. So you do some sort of social intervention by organizing health camps for children in schools. You deploy your doctors and medical staff. So that is the input. Input is the time and efforts taken by the doctors and medical staff. And the output is the number of children who attended the health camps. And then this is the output. And then outcome. So there is a difference between output and outcome. So outcome is the increased awareness among children and parents about this improved health parameters of children. This is the impact. So output is something which is measurable, and impact is more of a general nature, which is of a qualitative nature. Output is of a quantitative nature. So contextual factors that help or hinder social change and the assumptions on which it is built can also be incorporated in the representation of theory of change. So it can be used for strategic planning with identification of needs and opportunities, intended situations, and the way to achieve that situation. It can also be used during implementation of social interventions to monitor indicators. So this tool can be used in impact reporting as well, where a graphic presentation can be easily used to depict the process of change and end result. So these are the assumptions, these are the areas, and these are the risks. So students use toilets on a regular basis. So this is the assumption. Students understand the benefits of using toilets, and girls feel more comfortable to come to school. So these are some of the assumptions we are making. Now area. This is the problem statement. So there is lack of toilets in rural schools. And activity. What is the activity you intend to do? You want to construct toilets in rural schools. What will be the outcome? Number of schools. Outcome will always be measurable. So number of schools with newly constructed toilets, number of students using toilets, number of children who started attending schools, who were earlier not attending schools. What will be the outcome? Outcome will be qualitative in nature. Increased awareness about sanitation and cleanliness, then improved attendance of girl children who are not coming earlier, and impact. What is the impact? Improved health of children and developed interest in education. Now, what are the risks? A risk is okay. You have built toilets, but there is no flushing facility. There is not adequate water. So there are no proper water and drainage facilities in the area. Toilets are not maintained and repaired when required by the school. And reduced attendance of students in related other facilities in the school. So these are some of the risks. Now, हाँ जी, हाँ.
एक बार मुझे आउटपुट और आउटकम थोड़ा समझाइए.
देखिए ऐसा है, आउटपुट जो है ना, आउटपुट इज ऑलवेज मेजरेबल. जैसे होता क्या है भाई, देयर इज अ सोशल एंटरप्राइज. वो सोशल एंटरप्राइज कहीं पर भी कुछ भी काम करती है, दे वर्क इन ए पर्टिकुलर फील्ड. लाइक ये वाला एग्जांपल ले लीजिए. आउटकम विल बी क्वालिटेटिव इन नेचर. आउटकम क्या होगा कि भाई ठीक है, उनकी हेल्थ फैसिलिटी, हेल्थ अवेयरनेस बढ़ गई. ठीक है. आउटपुट क्या होगा कि भाई जैसे आपने टॉयलेट्स कंस्ट्रक्ट कर दी, अब वो आउटपुट होगा, आपको मेजर भी तो करना है ना कि भाई आप एक एनजीओ हो. ठीक है, आप एक वहां पर काम कर रहे हो, एक फंडर बैठा है. फंडर तो बैठा है सिटी में. फंडर को पता नहीं कि आप क्या काम कर रहे हो कि नहीं कर रहे, या गवर्नमेंट को पता नहीं आप क्या काम कर रहे हो. तो वो क्या करोगे आप, क्या उस आउटपुट को मेजर कराओगे, उसको सर्वेस के थ्रू.
वो क्वांटिटेटिव होगा.
हाँ, क्वांटिटेटिव होगा. तो जैसे अब आपने भाई ऐसा है, हमने जी 50 स्कूलों में टॉयलेट बना दिए, ये आउटपुट है. ठीक है ना. वो जो नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स थे, पहले कम आते थे, अब ज्यादा आते हैं, ये आउटपुट है. तो हाँ, तो ये है. और आउटकम क्या है? तो देयर इज इंक्रीज्ड अवेयरनेस अबाउट सैनिटेशन एंड क्लीनलीनेस, इंप्रूव्ड अटेंडेंस ऑफ चिल्ड्रन. तो ये सारे ये आउटकम है बेसिकली. तो आउटकम्स जो है, आउटकम एक ब्रॉडर व्यू है और आउटपुट एक थोड़ा क्लोजर व्यू है, विच इज मोर क्वांटिटेटिव इन नेचर. ये है बेसिकली आउटपुट और आउटकम में यही है.
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू सर, समझ में आ गया.
अच्छा, इसके बाद में आता है इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ थ्योरी ऑफ चेंज इन सोशल इम्पैक्ट एनालिसिस. So theory of change can be an effective tool for impact evaluation to understand the changes due to social intervention. In an impact evaluation, the existing theory of change can also be reviewed and revised as needed to guide data collection, analysis and reporting. So theory of change can support, थोड़ा सा complicated है, एक बार पढ़ेंगे समझ में आ जाएगा. A theory of change can support an impact evaluation in several ways. So it can identify, first is the specific evaluation questions, especially in relation to those elements of the theory of change for which there is no substantive evidence is. तो अभी एक तो ये है कि theory of change में क्या होगा, आप you want to do some impact assessment. ठीक है, ये theory of change कैसे इस चीज को सपोर्ट करेगी. First of all, you have to formulate certain specific evaluation questions. आप अभी तक कोई भी एविडेंस आपके पास नहीं है, तो you are trying to formulate the specific evaluation questions. Then relevant variables that should be included in data collection. आपको क्या क्या variables उसके अंदर include करने हैं. Then intermediate outcomes that can be used as markers of success in situations where the impacts of interest will not occur during the time frame of the evaluation. Then aspects of implementation that should be examined, and potentially relevant contextual factors that should be addressed in data collection and in analysis to look for patterns. ये थोड़ा सा अगला जब हम चैप्टर पढ़ेंगे ना, चैप्टर 8 केस स्टडीज वाला, तो थोड़ी और क्लैरिटी आ जाएगी इसमें। चैप्टर 8 इज बेस्ड ऑन एक्चुअली दिस 7 ओनली। उसके बाद में आ जाता है हमारे पास गाइडलाइंस एंड टूल्स फॉर इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट। सो देयर आर वेरियस गाइडलाइंस एंड टूल्स एमर्ज्ड। और अच्छा, अगर कभी हमें थोड़ा सा बोरिंग लगे ना, हमें इसके नंबर देख लेने चाहिए। नंबर इसके कितने हैं? 15 नंबर हो गए मेरे ख्याल। तो उससे थोड़ा इंटरेस्ट जग जाएगा कि भैया इसको ध्यान से पढ़ लो। चैप्टर 7 15 नंबर का है जी। आप देख लो, ये चैप्टर थोड़ा छोटा सा चैप्टर है, अगर इसको हमने समझ लिया 15 नंबर हमारे पक्के हो गए। तो बहुत सारे लोग क्या कर रहे हैं, ये चैप्टर छोड़ के ही जा रहे हैं। वो कह रहे हैं यार ये कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है, इसको छोड़ो, बाकी शुरू वाले कर लिए, पास होने से मतलब है, ये है। तो उसके बाद में आता है जी guidelines and tools for impact assessment. So there are various guidelines and tools emerged at national and international level to cover impact indicators by different, लेकिन क्वेश्चन आंसर बनाएंगे ना इसके तो क्लैरिटी और ज्यादा आ जाएगी। और 7 और 8 जो है ना, 7 15 मार्क्स का है, चैप्टर 8 इज ऑल्सो ऑफ 15 मार्क्स। तो ये दोनों चैप्टर बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है। 30 मार्क्स का तो यही है, 7 और 8। So guidelines and tools for impact assessment. So there are various guidelines and tools emerged at national and international level to cover impact indicators by different stakeholders who are actively involved in implementation of social intervention. Some of these guidelines and tools are explained in this section. तो पहला तो है हमारा नेशनल गाइडलाइंस ऑन रिस्पॉन्सिबल बिजनेस कंडक्ट। ठीक है, तो in 2011 the Ministry of Corporate Affairs issued national voluntary guidelines on the social, environmental and economic responsibility of business. ठीक है, NVGs. So these guidelines were further revised in 2015 to align with international standards and sustainable development goals. ठीक है, these guidelines can be used by all types of business with different size, sectors, ownership structures and ownership. These guidelines contain the principles and connected core elements to ensure operationalization of each principle explained in table 7.3 below. तो 7.3 में कुछ प्रिंसिपल्स दिए हुए हैं। क्या क्या प्रिंसिपल्स हैं? प्रिंसिपल्स इंटरनेशनल गाइडलाइंस ऑन रिस्पॉन्सिबल बिजनेस कंडक्ट। पहला तो ये है, एक मिनट, पहला है बिजनेसेस should conduct and govern themselves with integrity and in a manner that is ethical, transparent and accountable. ठीक है, तो इन्होंने क्या करना है, इंटीग्रिटी हो गया एक तो, और एक हो गया एथिकल, एक हो गया ट्रांसपेरेंट और एक हो गया अकाउंटेबिलिटी। तो इसको टी करके आप याद कर सकते हो, TEA, और इसके बाद में फिर आई है। तो इंटेग्रिटी हो गया एक तो, एक हो गया एथिकल, और एक हो गया आपका अकाउंटेबल, और एक हो गया ट्रांसपेरेंट। इस तरह से कुछ ना कुछ सिस्टम बनाएंगे इसको याद करने का भी, थोड़ा सोच के ना वो डाल देंगे ग्रुप में। दूसरा है बिजनेसेस शुड प्रोवाइड गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इन मैनर दैट इज सस्टेनेबल एंड सेफ। भाई ये सब अच्छी अच्छी बातें करेंगे इसमें, ठीक है ना। ये एमसीए ने कुछ गाइडलाइंस बनाई है बिजनेस के लिए, बिजनेस भाई ये काम करे, ठीक है। तो दे शुड प्रोवाइड गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज इन मैनर दैट इज सस्टेनेबल एंड सेफ। तीसरा, बिजनेसेस शुड रिस्पेक्ट एंड प्रमोट द वेलबींग ऑफ ऑल एम्प्लॉयज इंक्लूडिंग दोज इन देयर वैल्यू चेन्स। ठीक है, businesses should respect the interest and be responsive to all the stakeholders. Business should respect and promote human rights. Business should respect and make efforts to protect and restore the environment. Businesses, when engaging in influencing public and regulatory policy, should do so in a manner that is responsible and transparent. Businesses should promote inclusive growth and equitable development. Businesses should engage with and provide value to their consumers in a responsible manner. तो ये सारी जो गाइडलाइंस हैं, ये इन्होंने गाइडलाइंस की है। इनको क्या कह रहे हैं हम? नेशनल वॉलंटरी गाइडलाइंस ऑन सोशल, एनवायरमेंटल एंड इकोनॉमिक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑफ बिजनेसेस, NVGs। 2011 में इशू की, फिर 2015 में इनको अलाइन किया गया विद सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स। ठीक है, अच्छा, फॉर्मेशन ऑफ NGBRC। ये NGBRC क्या है? NGBRC आपका ये शुरू में ही दे रखा है मेरे हिसाब से इसको ना। वो कौन सा चैप्टर था हमारा, चैप्टर 1 या 2 था ना जिसमें हमने दिया था। So this was a step taken by the government to meet its international obligation. वो जहाँ SDC वगैरह की फॉर्मेशन नहीं आती, बहुत सारे जो एजेंसीज आती हैं, वहां पर इसी का भी नाम है। कोई बात नहीं, बाद में देख लेंगे इसको, जो फुल फॉर्म इसकी है। तो इसमें क्या है, ये रिस्पॉन्सिबल बिजनेस कंडक्ट इस टाइप से होगा ना कुछ, है ना, नेशनल गाइडलाइंस ऑन रिस्पॉन्सिबल बिजनेस कंडक्ट, ये है ये। तो formation of this NGBRC was a step taken by the government to meet its international obligation under several treaty bodies. Companies are expected to recognize and prioritize these core elements and integrate them into their business strategies. Though these guidelines give a comprehensive framework, these guidelines have received criticism for its non-legal enforceability. So apart from adhering to the NGBRC, companies are using different ways to capture social impact. तो ये तो कुछ गाइडलाइंस है, ठीक है ना, लेकिन लीगल एनफोर्सिबिलिटी तो है नहीं उसकी, है ना, कि भाई शुड दिया हुआ है, ठीक है, एक एडवाइजरी है बेसिकली। देन फ्रेमवर्क इंट्रोड्यूस बाय ग्लोबल इन्वेस्टिंग कम्युनिटी। अब इन्होंने क्या क्या फ्रेमवर्क इंट्रोड्यूस किए, पहला तो है आईरिस प्लस। ये आईरिस प्लस क्या है? आईरिस प्लस इज एन इम्पैक्ट अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम which can be used by impact investors to measure, manage and optimize their impact. So Global Impact Investing Network, GIIN, offers the IRIS Plus system to support the practice of impact investing and promote transparency, credibility and accountability in the use of impact data for decision making across the impact investment industry. So IRIS Plus provides generally accepted definitions of impact categories and impact themes and identifies common goals and core metrics set by theme, thereby providing a shared language for describing, assessing, communicating, and ultimately comparing impact performance. So since most of the impact investors, they focus on SDGs for their social interventions, IRIS Plus has developed core metrics sets and catalogs of metrics which are aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals. It measures impact through impact management project based on 5 dimensions as shown below in table 7.4. ठीक है, तो ये हमारा एक इम्पैक्ट अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम है। क्या? IRIS। किसने दिया ये दिया इन्होंने, ये ग्लोबल इम्पैक्ट इन्वेस्टिंग नेटवर्क, इनका डिवाइस किया हुआ है। और इसका यूज क्या है? तो इट इज एन इम्पैक्ट अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम which can be used by impact investors to measure, manage and optimize their impact. जैसे अगर हम फाइनेंशियल अकाउंटिंग करते हैं उसमें भी पैकेज होते हैं ना, कोई अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम होते हैं, कोई टैली है, बिजी है, इसी तरह से यहाँ पर क्या है, ये IRIS इम्पैक्ट अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम है, ठीक है। डायमेंशंस क्या है ऑफ इम्पैक्ट मैनेजमेंट प्रोजेक्ट? WHO में क्या है, ये IMP डेफिनेशन, हु एक्सपीरियंसेस द इफेक्ट एंड हाउ अंडरसर्व्ड आर दे इन रिलेशन टू द आउटकम, ठीक है। फिर उसके बाद में इंपॉर्टेंट डेटा कैटेगरीज, हु पहला हो गया, हु, डायमेंशंस क्या है, हु, हाउ मच, व्हाट, और फिर उसके बाद में आपका आ गया ये कंट्रीब्यूशन, और फिर आ गया रिस्क। तो हु में सबसे पहले एक इम्पैक्ट मैनेजमेंट, भाई हम इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट कर रहे हैं, ठीक है ना, हम देखना चाह रहे हैं भाई जो हम काम कर रहे हैं उसका क्या इम्पैक्ट है, व्हाट इज द इम्पैक्ट। तो उसमें व्हाट आर द स्टेक होल्डर्स, ठीक है। सबसे पहला तो ये है कि किसके लिए हम काम कर रहे हैं, हु इज इन्वॉल्व एक्चुअली इन दिस इम्पैक्ट असेसमेंट। तो सबसे पहले तो क्या इंपॉर्टेंट डेफिनेशन क्या है, हु एक्सपीरियंसेस द इफेक्ट एंड हाउ अंडरसर्व्ड आर दे इन रिलेशन टू द आउटकम, ठीक है। फिर इंपॉर्टेंट डेटा कैटेगरीज, इसमें स्टेक होल्डर्स टाइप आ जाएगा, ज्योग्राफिकल बाउंड्री आ जाएगा, बेसलाइन लेवल ऑफ आउटकम आ जाएगा, ठीक है। एक बेसलाइन होता है, एक मिड लाइन होता है, और फिर एक जो फाइनल होता है, ठीक है ना। और ये स्टेक होल्डर्स कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स, ये इसमें डेटा कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स, क्योंकि आपको एक अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम है, बेसिकली इम्पैक्ट अकाउंटिंग सिस्टम है, तो उसमें फील्ड्स डिफाइन करने पड़ेंगे। जैसे हम अकाउंटिंग में फील्ड डिफाइन करते हैं ना, भाई डेबिट किसको करेंगे, क्रेडिट किसको करेंगे, कैपिटल क्या होगा, रेवेन्यू क्या होगा, इस तरह से यहाँ पर ये चीजें हमें डिफाइन करनी है। ठीक है, एक तो हु, उसके बाद में हाउ मच द इफेक्ट अकर्स इन टाइम पीरियड, ये एक है। उसके बाद में इंपॉर्टेंट डेटा कैटेगरीज क्या है, स्केल, नंबर ऑफ पीपल एक्सपीरियंसिंग द आउटकम, फिर डेप्थ क्या है, डिग्री ऑफ चेंज एक्सपीरियंस्ड बाय द स्टेक होल्डर, और फिर ड्यूरेशन क्या है, टाइम पीरियड फॉर विच द स्टेक होल्डर एक्सपीरियंसेस द आउटकम। फिर व्हाट में क्या है, ये व्हाट आउटकम्स द एंटरप्राइजेस कंट्रीब्यूटिंग टू एंड हाउ इंपॉर्टेंट द आउटकम्स आर। और इंपॉर्टेंट डेटा कैटेगरीज क्या है, तो आउटकम लेवल इन पीरियड, आउटकम थ्रेशोल्ड, एसडीजी, इंपॉर्टेंस ऑफ आउटकम टू स्टेक होल्डर्स। उसके बाद में कंट्रीब्यूशन क्या है, सो हाउ डज द इफेक्ट कंपेयर टू व्हाट वुड लाइकली अकर एनीवे। ठीक है, तो ये जो हम कर रहे हैं इसकी वजह से कितना कंट्रीब्यूट हो रहा है। ठीक है, और डेप्थ क्या होगा, इंपॉर्टेंट डेटा कैटेगरीज, एन एंटरप्राइज कंट्रीब्यूशन टू द डेप्थ ऑफ एन आउटकम बाय फैक्टरिंग इन द एस्टिमेटेड डिग्री ऑफ चेंज दैट वुड हैव अदरवाइज हैपेंड। ठीक है, और ड्यूरेशन क्या होगा, एन एंटरप्राइज कंट्रीब्यूशन टू द ड्यूरेशन ऑफ एन आउटकम by factoring in the estimated duration that the outcome would have otherwise endured, ये ड्यूरेशन हो गया। उसके बाद में फिर ये रिस्क आ गया, रिस्क में क्या डेफिनेशन है आपकी, which risk factors are significant and how likely it is that the outcome is different। और जो डेटा कैटेगरीज हैं, टाइप ऑफ इम्पैक्ट रिस्क टिपिकली डिस्क्राइब्ड यूजिंग 1 of 10 रिस्क फैक्टर्स, ये 10 रिस्क फैक्टर इन्होंने दी, एविडेंस रिस्क दे दिया, एक्सटर्नल रिस्क, एक्सिक्यूशन रिस्क, स्टेक होल्डर पार्टिसिपेशन रिस्क, ड्रॉप ऑफ रिस्क, अनएक्सपेक्टेड इम्पैक्ट रिस्क, एफिशिएंसी रिस्क, कंट्रीब्यूशन रिस्क, अलाइनमेंट रिस्क और एंड्योरेंस रिस्क। ये इन्होंने आईरिस को एक्सप्लेन कर दिया। अच्छा, टू असेस effects of investments, core metric sets describe key impact performance indicators which are explained। ये यहाँ पर आईरिस की साइट है, तो यहाँ पर ये सारी चीजें एक्सप्लेन की गई है। उसके बाद में दूसरा सिस्टम है GIIRS, ग्लोबल इम्पैक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट रेटिंग सिस्टम। तो एक तो IRIS प्लस हो गया, दूसरा हो गया GIIRS। ये क्या है, ग्लोबल इम्पैक्ट इन्वेस्टिंग रेटिंग सिस्टम is a comprehensive and transparent system for assessing the social and environmental impact of developed and emerging market companies and funds with a ratings and analytics approach analogous to Morningstar investment rankings and Capital IQ financial analytics. So GIIRS assesses social and environmental impact and practices of companies and funds using rating methodology that have now been used by 6,000 companies. ये online assessment tool है which offers both the company and fund impact ratings. So it issues a composite score of social and environmental performance which can help company to earn incremental positive points. These ratings can be comparable across companies and fund sizes. Details of the rating system are available at GIIRS website. तो ये सारी यहाँ पर GIIRS की वेबसाइट पर अवेलेबल है। एक बार आप वेबसाइट पे विजिट कर लेंगे तो और अच्छा रहेगा, उसको देखने से कुछ आइडिया आपको मिल जाएगा। उसके बाद में देखते हैं ये ग्लोबल रिपोर्टिंग इनिशिएटिव GRI, ये क्या है, तो GRI इज एन इंटरनेशनल नॉन प्रॉफिट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन which was established in 1997 in partnership with the United Nations Environment Program UNEP. Sustainability reporting standards have been developed to enhance transparency and accountability. ये इनका GRI का इनिशिएटिव है। So sustainability reporting standards have been developed to enhance transparency and accountability of economic, environmental, and social performance of organizations. It also offers a comprehensive sustainable reporting framework. So these standards are available for all the types of organizations from different sectors, which allows them to report their impact in a credible way. This can help the organization to develop their strategies and set goals and targets. So there are 3 categories under GRI standards. तो ये कौन कौन सी कैटेगरी हैं, एक तो है GRI यूनिवर्सल स्टैंडर्ड्स, दूसरे हैं GRI सेक्टर स्टैंडर्ड्स और तीसरे हैं टॉपिक स्टैंडर्ड्स। तो टॉपिक स्टैंडर्ड्स में क्या है, स्पेसिफिक टॉपिक वाइज है। सेक्टर स्टैंडर्ड्स में क्या है, दीज आर डेवलप्ड फॉर 40 सेक्टर्स, agriculture, oil and gas and so on. They explain the sector's characteristics, sector specific impacts and clauses, और universal है, ये universal जो है they are applicable for all the organizations, and they describe the critical concept, processes to use the standards, details of the organization's policies and activities and process to use sector and topic standards. तो तीन तरह के स्टैंडर्ड हैं इनके, GRI universal standards, GRI sector standards और GRI topic standards. उसके बाद में आगे ये फ्रेमवर्क इंट्रोड्यूस्ड बाय मल्टीलेटरल डेवलपमेंट एजेंसी UN ग्लोबल कॉम्पैक्ट UNGC. ये UN ग्लोबल कॉम्पैक्ट इट ऑफर्स कंपनीज टू अलाइन देयर स्ट्रेटजीज एंड ऑपरेशंस विद 10 प्रिंसिपल्स. इनके 10 प्रिंसिपल्स हैं कवरिंग ह्यूमन राइट्स, लेबर, एनवायरनमेंट एंड एंटी करप्शन एंड गाइड्स कंपनीज इन अचीविंग सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स. तो ये क्या है, ये है UNGC UN ग्लोबल कॉम्पैक्ट. So it offers companies to align their strategies and operations with 10 principles covering human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption, and guides companies in achieving SDGs. Over 9,500 companies and 3,000 non-business signatories from over 160 countries are associated with UNGC. So UNGC derives its principles from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. ये Universal Declaration of Human Rights से इनके principles आए हैं. The International Labour Organization's Declaration on Fundamental Principles and Rights at Work, the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, and the UN Convention Against Corruption. ठीक है, तो ये बॉक्स 7.1 it describes principles of UN Global Compact. क्या है principles? एक तो ह्यूमन राइट्स से रिलेटेड है आपका. पहला तो ये है कि बिजनेस शुड सपोर्ट एंड रिस्पेक्ट द प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ इंटरनेशनली प्रोक्लेम्ड ह्यूमन राइट्स. दूसरा प्रिंसिपल क्या है, मेक श्योर that they are not complicit in human rights abuses. तो ह्यूमन राइट्स से रिलेटेड तो दो हैं कि जो भी इंटरनेशनली प्रोक्लेम्ड ह्यूमन राइट्स है दे शुड सपोर्ट एंड रिस्पेक्ट दोस राइट्स. और दूसरा ये है कि ह्यूमन राइट अब्यूजेस में देयर शुड नॉट बी एनी कॉम्प्लिसिटी ऑफ दैट बिजनेस. लेबर से रिलेटेड कुछ प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, क्या है, दे शुड अपहोल्ड द फ्रीडम ऑफ एसोसिएशन एंड इफेक्टिव रिकॉग्निशन ऑफ द राइट टू कलेक्टिव बार्गेनिंग, एलिमिनेशन ऑफ ऑल फॉर्म्स ऑफ फोर्स्ड एंड कंपल्सरी लेबर, effective abolition of child labor, and elimination of discrimination in respect of employment and occupation. फिर environment से related कुछ principles हैं. Business should support a precautionary approach to environmental challenges. Then undertake initiatives to promote greater environmental responsibility and encourage the development and diffusion of environmentally friendly technologies. और फिर एंटी करप्शन से रिलेटेड है प्रिंसिपल 10, businesses should work against corruption in all its forms including extortion and bribery. तो ये कुछ डिफरेंट प्रिंसिपल्स के ऊपर बेस्ड है. और इंडिया में जो है ये ग्लोबल कॉम्पैक्ट नेटवर्क इंडिया GCNI, this was formed in 2003 and it is registered as a non-profit society to function as the Indian local network of the Global Compact, New York, giving membership to over 500 leading business and non-business participants in India. उसके बाद में आ गया फिर फ्रेमवर्क ऑफ इम्पैक्ट फंडर्स विद ऑपरेशंस इन इंडिया. इसमें इसको कल करेंगे हम लोग. तो पहला तो है OMIDR नेटवर्क. ये OMIDR नेटवर्क क्या है देख लेते हैं मोटा मोटा, बट करेंगे कल. OMIDR network is a social change venture which invests in the social enterprises working towards strengthening the community. So they partner with funders, advocates, scholars, businesses, innovators, and others in the developmental areas. The OMIDR Network India has made investments in the areas like education, digital society, technology, financial inclusion, and sustaining cities. ये OMIDR नेटवर्क है, ये फ्रेमवर्क है, ये कुछ इम्पैक्ट फंडर्स है, दोज हु आर ऑपरेटिंग इन इंडिया, दे हैव ऑपरेशंस इन इंडिया. एक तो OMIDR नेटवर्क है, ठीक है. ये क्या करते हैं, ये इनका अपना इम्पैक्ट मेजरमेंट टूल है. और ये जो टूल है इट कैप्चर्स इम्पैक्ट एट 2 लेवल्स. पहला तो डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट, दैट इंक्लूड्स रीच, नंबर ऑफ पीपल इम्पैक्टेड, डेप्थ एंड इंक्लूजन, ठीक है. और दूसरा क्या है, फिर सेक्टर इम्पैक्ट है, दैट कंप्राइजेस लिमिटेड इमिटेटर्स, ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैव रेप्लिकेटेड और एडेप्टेड द इन्वेस्टीज मॉडल फॉलो। दूसरा है आविष्कार, तो पहला ओमिडिया नेटवर्क हो गया, दूसरा आविष्कार है। ये आविष्कार क्या है? ये आविष्कार इंडिया इज माइक्रो वेंचर कैपिटल फंड। उसके बाद हाँ
आविष्कार में पूछा गया कि ऑप्शन में यही ढूंढना होता है, वेंचर कैपिटल फंड, माइक्रो वेंचर।
हाँ। तीसरा है फिर इंडियन सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नेटवर्क ISRN, और चौथा ये फिर इसके बाद है इम्पैक्ट रिपोर्टिंग। फिर टाइप्स ऑफ इम्पैक्ट रिपोर्टिंग कौन कौन से हैं, इसको हम कल कर सकते हैं, अभी थोड़ा बड़ा है। फिर डायरेक्ट इम्पैक्ट ऑन टारगेट कम्युनिटी, सिस्टमैटिक इम्पैक्ट, फिर कंपोनेंट्स ऑफ इम्पैक्ट रिपोर्टिंग। बट आप देखो ना 15 नंबर का भी तो है ना, तो 15 नंबर में कुछ तो फिर थोड़ा सा इन्होंने बड़ा करना ही था ना इसको। तो ऐसा एक बार इसको पढ़ लेंगे, एक बार पढ़ने के बाद में फिर इस पे कुछ क्वेश्चंस भी करेंगे। इन्होंने तो 4 क्वेश्चन दे दिए, पर हम इस पर कम से कम 50-60 क्वेश्चन तो बनाएंगे, तभी क्लैरिटी आएगी क्या है क्या नहीं। तो कल करते हैं इसको बाकी। और 7 और 8 में जो है ज्यादा थोड़ा हमें इंपॉर्टेंस देना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि 30 मार्क्स का है, 7 इज ऑफ 15 मार्क्स, और जो 8 चैप्टर है दैट इज ऑल्सो ऑफ 15 मार्क्स। इसको अगर हम कर लेंगे ना तो बाकी वाले तो इजी है। देखो अप टू 6 चैप्टर्स तो हमें काफी क्लैरिटी आ भी गई है कि नहीं। और बाकी फिर लास्ट वाला है वो रेगुलेशंस वाला। रेगुलेशंस पर भी वी हैव ऑलरेडी डेवलप्ड सम MCQs, और उसका वीडियो भी 1-2 मैंने डाला है ग्रुप में, तो उसको भी हम कर ही लेंगे। ये थोड़ा सा 7 और 8 को थोड़ा सा इंपॉर्टेंस देते हैं।
सर आपने MCQs डाले हैं क्या रेगुलेशंस के पे?
हाँ बिल्कुल डाले हैं।
अच्छा
हाँ बहुत पहले डाल दिए थे मैंने तो, बहुत पहले
तो ढूंढने पड़ेंगे, पता नहीं अब डिसअपियर हो चुके
हैं। नहीं डिसअपियर होने का मतलब ही नहीं। देखो मैं अभी दिखा देता हूँ आपको, 1 मिनट।
अब दोबारा डाल देंगे?
अरे 1 मिनट रुको ना, देखो 1 मिनट रुको, 1 मिनट रुको। ये देखो मेरी स्क्रीन नजर आ रही है आपको?
आ रही है।
आ रही है ना?
नहीं आप ये तो वही दिख रहा है। हाँ मतलब NISM खोला हुआ है आपने?
NISM को स्टॉप कर देता हूँ ना, NISM को स्टॉप करके 1 मिनट, ये व्हाट्सएप खोल देता हूँ, ठीक है। कुछ मुश्किल नहीं होता उसमें, मीडिया में जाओ, मीडिया में सब मिलेगा। सर्च भी कर सकते हो आप, सर्च भी कर सकते हो। अभी दिखा रहा हूँ।